Good afternoon, everyone. I want to welcome everyone to today's meeting of the State Senate Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections. Madam Secretary, if you please note, all members are present. Majority Leader Canizaro, please mark her present when she arrives. I'd ask everyone to please silence their cell phones. And again, sometimes we do have contentious issues that come before this committee, but I ask everyone to be respectful to all parties. Today we are going to hear Senate Bill 215, which came out of the Interim Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections. And I will be presenting the bill as I served on that interim committee, and I'll pass the gavel over to our Vice Chair Daly.
Okay, committee, we're going to go ahead and open the hearing on Senate Bill 215. Senator, please proceed at your leisure, or your pleasure.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair Daly. For the record, James Orenshaw, I represent State Senate District 21 down in Clark County. And today I'm presenting Senate Bill 215. During the interim, I served on the Interim Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections, and Senate Bill 215 was one of the recommendations from that committee. Senate Bill 215, as I said, came from the Interim Committee, and it relates to electronic voting equipment used in our state and how some counties at the time were considering moving away from the mechanical voting machines or mechanical recording devices to implement all paper ballot voting and or hand counting of ballots. Putting the policy implications of paper ballot voting and hand counting aside, there was concern among the members of the interim committee that state funds could be or already were being lost on unused electronic voting equipment since the state helped finance the purchase of the new equipment just a few years ago. During the 2017 legislative session, the legislature appropriated $8 million to the counties to overhaul aging electronic voting equipment. The new voting machines purchased with this money were intended to be used until they needed replacement. However, due to allegations that arose during the 2020 elections, several counties decided to reconsider use of such machines. In October of 2021, Lander County approved funding to replace their voting machines that had been purchased in 2018 with machines from a different vendor. Let me be clear that the allegations that had been passed around of voter fraud have been repeatedly proven false. These were perfectly good voting machines that the county decided to replace based on these false claims. And as such, Nevada taxpayers fronted the bill for an unnecessary purchase of new voting machines. Additionally, county commissioners in Esmeralda, Nye, and Lyon counties last year considered requesting that their county move to an all-paper ballot system and eliminate the use of voting machines altogether. None of the counties ended up implementing an all-paper ballot system, though that is still a possibility in the future. To ensure that any state funds allocated for the purchase of electronic voting equipment are used efficiently and effectively, Senate Bill 215 requires counties and cities to return such funds to the state if that county or city decides to discontinue the use of such electronic voting equipment to implement voting by paper ballot. Senate Bill 215 does not prohibit a city or county from implementing an all-paper ballot system. It just stipulates that if any state money was used to purchase electronic voting equipment that will no longer be used due to the move to voting by paper ballot, such money must be returned to the state. This bill does not require cities or counties to return state funds if they decide to replace electronic voting equipment with equipment from another vendor. NRS 293B.1045 provides that cities and counties have the flexibility to purchase any mechanical voting system that is approved for use in Nevada by the Secretary of State. And this bill does not change that. So while this bill would not be able to recoup any state funds from Lander County's decision to cease use of its 2018 voting machines, it would be able to recoup funds from other purchases of voting machines that would be returned to the vendor per contractual limitations if replaced with paper ballot voting. Finally, I would like to note that this bill is not retroactive. That was something that there was spirited discussion during the interim committee hearings, and that was something that we were assured, and the bill is not retroactive. During the vote in the interim committee, there was a unanimous vote in support of this bill draft request, and the provisions in Senate Bill 215 would not apply to state money allocated during the 2017 session, as I and the interim committee believed it would be unfair to ask for money to be returned that was already allocated without such stipulations. This bill would be effective on July 1st, 2023, if it's signed into law, and any state money awarded to cities and counties for the purchase of voting equipment on or after that date would be subject to the provisions of the bill. Mr. Vice Chair, members, I'm happy to answer any questions about Senate Bill 215.
Thank you, Senator, for the presentation. Committee, any questions? Senator Gansert.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. So just clarification, this isn't about any of the systems that have already been purchased and are being used or not used in certain counties, like number one, because it's not retroactive. And then the second part was, you had mentioned if they wanted to change the type of system that they're using, they were using one brand, they could go to another brand as long as that type of system was approved by the Secretary of State. So if they changed systems, it was fine. If it was still electronic, or you're using the term mechanical, and I heard you use mechanical and electronic, so is it okay to change systems as long as it's approved by the Secretary of State and this is not retroactive? So any money that's been spent to date would not have to be refunded if they chose to go to a different, or a hand ballot system, a paper system.
Through you, Vice Chair Daley, to Senator Gansert, that's correct. The way the bill is written, there was specifically asked that it not be retroactive during the interim committee on legislative operations and elections. So funds provided from the 2017 legislative session would not be asked to be paid back if a county or a city decided that they did want to make that conversion to a paper ballot. And specifically also if a county decided to change from one type of mechanical voting system to another, as long as it's approved by the Secretary of State pursuant to the statute. And I believe right now the two machines that are approved by the Secretary of State are the Dominion and the Election Systems and Software, ES&S systems. That would not require any kind of return of money.
Any, Senator Krasner?
Thank you, Vice Chair Daley. Thank you for your presentation, Senator Orenshaw. When my colleague just asked you about funds that would need to be returned, you mentioned the 2017 legislative session. So in this last election, which was 2022, November 2022, I know that some counties elected not to use their machines. Would they be responsible for paying back money?
And through you, Vice Chair Daley, to Senator Krasner, the way Senate Bill 215 is written, it's not written to be retroactive. So I do not believe this bill would apply to any counties that decided they wanted in the last election to go to paper ballots, using any of the funds that were provided by the 2017 legislature to purchase those new machines. So no.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
And so just to clarify, if I can, Mr. Senator Orenshaw, this last election, they did use the machines, all the counties. After the last election, in 2022, I believe everyone used the machines. After the 2022 election, they decided to, a couple of counties, at least one, decided to go to the all paper ballot. So if that continues and they go to the paper ballot for the 2024 election, then that would trigger this for that election process if they don't use the machines, and they would need to reimburse the state if they're not using them.
And
if I have the dates right.
Vice Chair Daley, the way I read Senate Bill 215, if it passed and was signed into law, it becomes effective on July 1st of 2023. I don't believe that that would apply if that county or city decides to then switch to paper ballots based on the funds that were provided by the 2017 legislature. This bill is not meant to be retroactive. So I don't believe that that would apply.
You need a follow-up? Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Just so there's no confusion again, is that the 2017 purchases are done, and we're not asking for any money back on those. In the future, if there was another allocation, say in 2027, there was an allocation for voting machines, and a county chose to accept that money to buy the mechanical or electronic voting machines, and then didn't use them, that would be the scenario. So we're really looking towards the future if this happens again, where we allocate money is spent, and then the machines aren't used.
Through you, Vice Chair, to Senator Severs-Gansert, correct. Senate Bill 215 is written, I believe, in a prospective way so that county clerks, city clerks, whoever's in charge of elections would be on notice if this passes and is signed into law, that if they do accept money for purchasing new mechanical voting systems, and then the decision is made to go to a paper ballot system, that money would need to be returned. This is not meant to be retroactive. So the way you phrase this is exactly what I believe the intent is of Senate Bill 215.
Thank
to
you.
be
And,
prospective.
just one other thought. So if the legislature decides that they're going to spend more money on new machines, say in 2027, at that time, I would imagine that counties would be able to opt in or out if they chose that they didn't want to accept money, because this is all about using general fund and then having to refund general fund. But if they never took the general fund in the first place, if they decided they were going to use a paper ballot system, they should not be responsible for any of those funds if they never accepted them and then changed how they were voting.
And through you, Vice Chair Daley, to Senator Severs-Gansert, correct. If this passes into law after July of 2023, I think if a county clerk, city clerk, whoever's in charge of elections for that municipality decides, no, I don't not want to accept any money from the state to purchase mechanical voting machines, there would be no money to return if they did decide they wanted to go back. Although, if they didn't accept the money, there'd be no money to return at all. So, and this is not retroactive.
Thank you. Any further questions? And Senator, you can go direct, and anybody else that comes up can go direct. You don't have
Thank
to
you,
go
Vice Chair.
through the chair if there's a question. So any other information you need to us, or we'll...
No, I'm ready to answer any questions, and I appreciate the committee hearing this bill.
All right. Well, at this time then, we'll go to people in support, either here or on video, I believe. I don't know if that's in Las Vegas or in another location, but so anybody here in support of Senate Bill 215? Anyone on video down south? Anybody on the phones in support at this time?
Chair, there are no callers at this time.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Seeing no one in support, we'll open it up for anyone that wants to testify in opposition. And we can go ahead and start with the gentleman on the video feed down south.
Thank you very much, Senators, for the opportunity. My name is Mark Kampf, Nye County Clerk. That's spelled K-A-M-P-F. I'm testifying in opposition to SB 215 as written. I would like to thank the Senator for clarifying that this would not be retroactive, because Nye County did implement successfully a paper ballot process, although we are retaining machines to be used for voters that have disabilities. And we provided that option for 249 voters in our county. Although this would not apply to us because we moved to paper ballots, as you've clarified, I do believe that the bill needs to be more clear on the fact that it is not retroactive. Also, if you look at this, the bill provides no allowance for amortization of the costs of the equipment purchased. So if you're 6 years down the road and you decide to use that, you've gone through 6 election cycles, do you have to pay the full amount back that you were received in the future, or can you amortize that and pay back a portion of it? It also doesn't recognize the technological life of machines that are currently in use. Someone may have a machine, and after a period of time, the technology could be outdated and inadequate and choose to go to a paper ballot. And this bill would require them to pay that back. The there is a companion bill, AB 242, which prohibits paper ballots at the polls unilaterally. And so, in other words, even with Nye County having gone to a paper ballot, AB 242 would require that we still use paper ballots at the polls, therefore basically insisting that we use machines. So basically, we are overwhelmingly in our county supported paper ballots at the polls, and any action to prevent the voters from Nye County and being able to use paper ballots at polls, the same ballots that 68% of the voters used when they filled out their ballot at home and dropped it in the mail or into the post office box. So I see there being an inconsistency in the approach on this, in that I do understand that the objective is to make sure that if you provide money that it's used. I do think that that needs to be clarified, that it would not be retroactive. I also believe that you need to allow for the amortization of costs and recognize that there is a technological life of the equipment.
Thank you. And before we come up here to Carson City, is there anybody else on video that would want to testify in opposition? Please proceed.
Good morning. My name is Susan Proffitt, Proffitt, Vice President of Nevada Republican Club. I thank you all on this committee for your service, but I do oppose this, and I'll tell you why. And it'll help you to know my part in the election process. I sued Joe Gloria for the right for meaningful observation of the election process from start to finish, and we won. Our team of observers, lawyers, and professionals were present every day inside the Register of Voters in Clark County to establish a benchmark of the operations in an effort to determine how we could improve the system and save money at the same time. I witnessed machines being used part-time. The Agilis machines that were there were never used at the same time, and that department was often closed. The same can be said about all the other departments in the last election. I've been doing this every single day at every election since 2020. So I look forward to hearing from some of you if you want to know how our team thinks you can save some money or move it where it needs to be to improve the system. You certainly don't need any more voting machines because the people evidently don't want them. I've heard a lot of complaints. From my perspective, you don't need them. And in imposing punitive charges on counties who feel the need to hand count is just one more bill on a long list of bills that have caused voters to distrust your system. And optics matter. They really do. And, you know, I didn't feel good about lying to ABC when I told them that I had every faith in the system that my vote would count, because it didn't. Okay? I could give you a number. In fact, last time I spoke about this, you said that I didn't have corroborating evidence. This is just one briefcase out of a closet of reports that we sent in that have not been reviewed because they were refused to see them. And we really wanted to save you money. We wanted to help. We weren't looking for you to be cheating, but we found cheating. We found 7 different ways of cheating. And I really think that...
Can I just interrupt? I think we're off the subject of the
sure.
bill. So let's stick with the bill rather than litigating whether or not your vote counted. That's not what this bill is about. That's not what we're going to litigate. Stick to the bill, please.
All right. Okay. Well, this bill is punitive in nature, and it puts handcuffs on your registrars. So they're going to be less likely to want a hand count, and I think that's obvious. And when you look at AB 242, which prohibits using paper ballots at polls, and AB 95 that's going to be coming up, the first step towards ranked choice voting, AB 246,
We're going to...
all of these are leading us to one place, and it's making it easier for people to cheat, and you need to know that your voters see it that way.
We're off the subject to the bill again, so thank you for your testimony, and we're going to
part of it.
We're going to move here to Carson City now. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Janine Hansen, and I represent the Independent American Party. I was here in this building in 2003 when they first adopted HAVA, Help America Vote Act. And there was a huge discussion over what to do about that, and they finally decided to do it because they were going to get money, and that's when the electronic voting machines were first implemented, and that was under Dean Heller when he was the Secretary of State. And people were upset about it at first because it didn't have any record of how they voted. So Dean Heller later added the printouts that are at the side of the machines. Now, of course, those don't have any efficacy because they can't even be used for a recount under Nevada law, but they made people feel better anyway. So there's been a lot of controversy for years about these machines in this building. It isn't something new because I've testified numerous times on it. I really appreciated Senator Orenshaw's explanation of this bill. I think it took away some of my concerns about it, and I appreciated him in doing that, realizing now that it's not retroactive, and that if people, county clerks and counties in the future don't ask for the money, that they have the freedom, and I want to be sure they have that they can determine in their own county whether they use the machines if they want to, or if they don't use the machines. I think it's very important that that's clearly stated, that we know that they have that option. Because I think, after all, we do believe in local government, and the government was created originally by the people. And so they need to have a say in their own county what happens with whether or not they have machines or whether or not they want to have paper ballots. I think that's very, very important. Thomas Jefferson said, "I know of no safe depositor of the ultimate powers of society but the people themselves, and if we think them not enlightened enough to exercise their control with wholesome discretion, the remedy is not to take it from them, but to inform their discretion by education." And I think that that's the way we need to approach it, that the counties need to be able, under their own county commissioners and their own county clerks who are elected in the smaller counties, of course they have appointed in the Washoe and Clark, that they need to be able to have the discretion to make that decision. And if that bill allows us, I'm not opposed. We support the discretion of the people in the counties to determine how they will conduct voting using paper ballots, which have been used in Nevada since its inception. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman.
Thank you. Go ahead and take your testimony.
Thank you, Vice Chairman and committee. My name is Barbara Jones, for the record. And just to update from HAVA, a couple people here probably weren't around when AB 422 was passed. And if you want to go on the Secretary of State's website, I found nobody besides maybe who voted for it that even knows about this. Go on the Secretary of State's website under elections. On the lower left-hand column, it has the VREMS project, and it's pretty much in place this year. They've been progressively going toward it, and you probably will lose local control because it's going to be federally helping each county and state with their machines. And
Are we talking about this bill, which is about?
yes, well, no.
Let's stay on the subject.
No, it has to do, I'm sorry.
SB 2.
You're right. I'm sorry,
you.
I apologize.
We want to stay to
I don't
what
do
the
this
bill
often.
subject is. We don't want to talk about a bunch
No,
of things
well,
that aren't related to the bill.
why it's related is because Nye County had the courage to do away with the machines, and it would be, it's a local grant to Nevada for machines this year to be helped by the federal government per a local grant, and counties are going to lose this bill like Nye. So I'm against the bill. Please vote against it, and have somebody the courage to tell us how we can repeal AB 422. They're connected. I'm sorry. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay.
Is there anyone else down on the video in Southern Nevada or that wants to testify in opposition? Is there anyone else here in Carson City that wants to testify in opposition? Okay, seeing none, can we go to the phones? Is there anyone on the phone that wants to testify in opposition on Senate Bill 215?
Thank you, Chair. If you would like to testify in opposition of SB 215, press star 9 to take your place in the queue. Again, if you would like to testify in opposition of SB 215, press star 9 to take your place in the queue.
Yeah, good afternoon, Bob Russo for the record. I oppose Senate Bill 215 and ditto to the testimonies of Mark Kampf and Janine Hansen. We live in a republic where people and residents have a voice. As such, I believe that the method of voting should be decided by the county. Please oppose Senate Bill 215. Thank you very much.
And can you spell your last name for us very quickly before you hang up, if you would?
Sorry, Chair, they were just
Very well.
Good afternoon. May I speak?
Yes, proceed.
Okay, thank you so much. This is Dora Martinez, and I represent my organization, which is the Nevada Disability Peer Action Coalition, and we are in 100% opposed to this bill. This will, we are people with disability. There are blind people, hard of hearing, people with speech impairment, and this will eliminate our right to vote independently. The American with Disabilities Act passed like almost 30 years ago, and I believe this is going backwards. So please oppose this bill. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other callers on the phone in opposition to SB 215?
If you have just joined us and would like to testify in opposition of SB 215, press star 9 to take your place in the queue.
Good afternoon, committee and chairman. My name is Jim DeGraffenreid, DeGraffenreid, and I am Nevada's Republican National Committee man speaking on behalf of the Nevada Republican Party. I also appreciate the statements that the bill is not retroactive, but as was stated before, would like to see that stated more clearly within the bill. In 2019, a Democrat-controlled Nevada legislature passed into law the Voters' Bill of Rights. SB 215 is an attack on the Voters' Bill of Rights and an attack on local control. Our Democrat friends regularly invoke the importance of local control in defending irregular election practices in Clark County, such as excluding Republican observers, not following publicly posted schedules, or refusing to allow cameras to live stream the ballot counting process to the public at no cost. The importance of local control over elections was used as the reason to not address each of these real-life issues. Elections are controlled by those elected officials that are closest to the voters, the county clerks and registrars. This bill is an attack on the right of voters to determine what kind of election system they find trustworthy. Nevada's counties, like our residents, are diverse and varied. The system for Esmeralda County with 617 registered voters can and perhaps should be radically different from Clark County, which has over 1.3 million active voters. That's not for this body to decide. That is for the voters in the county to decide. The Voters' Bill of Rights specifies that a voter has a right to receive and cast a ballot that accurately records the voter's preference in the selection of candidates. As demonstrated in multiple recounts in 2020 and 2022, Clark County, when recounting the same ballots, couldn't reproduce the same numbers. Any reasonable person would have doubts when the same ballots are run through the same machines and come out with a different number. Accordingly, some voters in their respective counties have said that they want...
We need to stick to the bill. We're not talking about the outcome of anybody's elections or recounts or anything else. We're talking about Senate Bill 215, so I need you to stay on subject, please.
You'll see that it's on subject. Accordingly, some voters have said they want only paper and mail ballots in order to accurately uphold NRS 293.2536, Section 1B. This bill would disenfranchise those voters and is therefore an attack on the Voters' Bill of Rights. It is absolutely unfair to impose a punitive action against counties that opt for diversity in their election systems to meet the wishes of their local voters, because all systems have to be approved by the Secretary of State. This legislature is trying to attack Nye County, although possibly not with the non-retroactive, but they did comply with every legal requirement in their 2022 process. Please respect local control and diversity of opinion and stop attacking rural Nevada counties. Vote no on SB 215. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other callers? I understand we had a little technical difficulties there for a while. Hopefully that's been resolved. So do we have any other callers in opposition?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, proceed.
Okay. My name is Renee Resentis, and I am opposed to SB 215. I do not want to see any more mechanical machines, voting machines, or machines that count the vote, to tally the vote. I can think of one very important situation where it was paid for a recount, and the workers, the people in charge at the ROV's office, took those thumb drives and stuck it in the computers. And so I guess they thought that was meaningful observation. So we got to watch them put the thumb drives in the computers, and they called it recounting, even though a hand count was requested. So I just don't like these games that's being played. I think some arrogance are behind it. Whatever they can get away with, it just seems like that's what's happening. Somebody put out thousands of dollars for the recount, and this is what they got.
And can I keep you on subject? We're not talking about recounts. We're talking about Senate Bill 215, so I need you to stay on the subject of the bill, please.
Okay, and that's for the mechanical means of voting. No, I am opposed, and I hope you will be also. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other callers?
Hi, my name is Lisa Card T, L-I-S-A, P as in Paul, A-R-T as in Tom, E-E. I am also opposed to SB 215. I believe that we need to support county choice as per Nevada law. And also what the gentleman was talking about with the Voters' Bill of Rights. I absolutely echo his sentiments 100%. So I hope you all say no on SB 215. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller.
Yes, my name is Leslie Quinn, L-E-S-L-I-E, last name Quinn, Q-U-I-N-N, and I strongly oppose SB 215. I did help Nye County hand count, found that there was many problems with the Dominion machines. I worked the polls at Desert Breeze Park. I saw a lot of stuff going on wrong. I think our country, our Nevada, is getting too AI, and I believe that in person on the day, election day, that we should not have any type of machines, Dominion or any other type of machines. I don't care how high tech they are. We need paper people to come in on the day of vote and vote. I strongly oppose, again, this bill and SB 215, and I hope everybody else does as well. The U.S. Constitution, the 26th Amendment in Section 1 gives all U.S. citizens the right to vote, and I think we should be able to do that with it being impinged by any type of machine, AI device, or anything else. Please let us go to paper voting only in person on Election Day, and you will see who really is the people that are really winning as far as for our legislature. Make America great again. Thank you. Oppose SB 215.
Thank you. And do we have any other callers in opposition?
Chair, there are no other callers willing to give opposition at this time.
Very good. Thank you. At this
There
time,
are
we'll
more
go ahead.
people that are in the queue. There are more people in the queue trying to talk to you.
We'll go to Carson City.
I'm sorry, one disappeared.
We'll go back to the phones in a second. We have a person in Carson City in person. Please proceed in opposition.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for listening. My name is PJ Belanger, legally Patty, Belanger. I am strongly opposed to SB 215. 215, did I say it right? Because it is punitive, because it is punishing. And the reason it's punishing is to gain, for government to gain more control over the people. And for that intent, it is wrong and should be denied. But kind of on a broader scope is the word appropriated, is that these funds were appropriated and that they should be given back to the general fund. So my statement, we should oppose this because we know that legislators, city council people, county commissioners, especially our registrar of voters, have all appropriated funds dishonestly that should be returned to the general fund. So for us to go after this county for what the people want is really wrong. So please oppose SB 215. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else in person here in Carson City that wants to testify in opposition? This is the last call, so if you want to testify in opposition in person, either here or on video down south, you need to come to the table and then we'll go back to the phone. So please proceed.
Good afternoon. Thank you for your time on this committee. My name is Dana Engelkirk, Englekirk. I am opposed to the Senate Bill 215, and I echo and ditto the comments of Janine Hansen and others that have already testified.
Thank you. Okay, not seeing anyone else in Carson City, not calling again. I don't see anyone down south. So we'll go back to the phones if there's anyone in opposition trying to call in.
Yes,
Just so
phone
you
number,
know,
Chair.
I've gotten texts. There are a number of
we're on
people
the
trying to
phone.
call in from Clark County.
We've got people on the phone and we're going through the process.
Good afternoon. Excuse me. Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Cyrus, Cyrus. I'd like to ditto the comments made by the previous callers. I really don't see the need for voting machines. Nobody has ever told me a good reason to use them. By the way, the opposition to voting machines is not a partisan issue. I can show you articles and documentaries from Michael Moore speaking about how voting machines were rigged and were used to help George W. Bush win the 2000 election. So what happened all of a sudden? It's interesting how everything just shifted. And not to mention, it's interesting how counties are being sued to fighting against voting machines are often the counties that are being sued that they want to ban the COVID jab. Think about this. This all correlates together, and if you want to prove that these elections are real, you can first prove.
Can we stick to the bill, please, Cyrus? We need to stick to the bill. If you want to go into these other issues, that's not what we're here for. If you have some further comments on Senate Bill 215, let's hear those.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't see a lot of transparency. You know, I've heard that the Gaming Control Board has a lot of influence, but other than that, thank you so much. Yield my time.
Thank you. Next caller, please.
Hi, my name is Tracy Thomas, Thomas, and I oppose this bill because it is forcing these counties to maintain antiquated machines with no way to get out and get new ones, or maybe even transfer to a different system. I'm sure Carson City, since they have the ES&S machines, would love to have one of the other counties change over to their system so they could be in having backup for having to troubleshoot and support these machines. But there is no reason to be locking counties into these antiquated machines. You're forcing us to just continue on with the same system and then have to buy new ones to replace the old ones So the old ones that were initially funded by these grants or whatever fund are no longer even in service. So this makes no sense. I do not approve this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller, please.
Hello. Hello, my name is Jill Douglas. That's spelled Douglass. I am the president of the Battle Born Republican Women. I want to thank you today for the opportunity to voice my opinion on SB 215. I object to SB 215, which revises the provisions related to mechanical voting machines and recording devices as written. It's really not clear as to what it will or won't do. And I would question why it is critical or important that this law be put in place today. I'm not even sure if we have a schedule of replacing machines, but it would seem to me that it's to place fear on voters for financial retribution if they want to take action and have paper ballots. I think that it's an overreach of the government to eliminate manual voting by a government mandate that all elections are done by machines is just wrong. Other nations, such as Europe, use manual voting quite effectively. Election results are known on election night. If passed, Assembly Bill 215 really disenfranchises voters like those voters in 9 counties who used manual voting in 2022. And manual voting provides a great paper audit trail. And at the end of the day,
can we stick to the bill? So you're off subject again, ma'am.
Yes.
We're not talking about election
I'm
processes.
Not. I just talked about the manual voting processes.
We're not talking about the manual voting processes.
And the supervisors of elections.
I can have you cut off if you'd like.
To determine
okay, go ahead and cut her off.
They want to vote.
Thank you. We have another
caller. If you
caller?
have just joined us and would like to testify in opposition of SB 215, press star 9 now to take your break. Yes, Joe, we have no one callers willing to testify in opposition at this time.
Thank you. I see one more person took me up, and I'm going to be polite and let you go ahead and speak. You're here for opposition? Yes? Proceed. You need to turn the microphone on. The white button.
My name is Lori Johnson. I live right here in Carson City, Nevada. My name is spelled LORIJOHNOSON, and I oppose of this bill, SB 215. I oppose of it. I don't believe we need this bill. There's a no on that bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, we'll go to neutral. If we have anybody here in Carson City that's neutral, or anybody on the video in neutral. Please proceed.
Good afternoon. I'm Kelvin Bell, voter from Clark County, Kelvin, last name Bell. I'm neutral on this, but in hearing the testimony, one of the things that was brought to my attention by Senator Orenshaw was that I didn't see that there's a provision if there's something in the future that's discovered with the voting machines that causes a problem. He mentioned that there's nothing that, no fraud was determined so far, but if you find something that's a problem in the future with the machines, I didn't see a provision in the bill that says that the counties can return those without being penalized financially. So that was one of the things I think needs to be considered and amended into the bill as it's written, sticking strictly with the bill itself. I urge you to consider an amendment to that effect. Thank you, Senators.
Thank you. Anybody down south in neutral? Anybody else in Carson City neutral? Okay, let's go to the phones and see if we have any callers in neutral, and I will ask you to make sure that neutral testimony is not concerning Senate Bill 215. We're not going to continue debate over the bill. So these are for items not on the agenda. If we have anybody on the phone in neutral, or excuse me, that's public comment. If we have anyone in neutral on the bill, excuse me.
If you would like to testify in neutral to SB 215, press star 9 to take your place in the queue.
Hi, good afternoon, Vice Chair, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Melody Hudilia. That's MELODYJUDILLA, and I'm the Deputy Director of Silver State Voices. I'm here to testify in neutral on behalf of the Let Nevada Vote Coalition. With this current language, we would like to see more clarifying language that outlines next steps or consequences for the county should they or should they not return the funding. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other
Chair, there are
callers?
no more callers at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. Senator Orenshaw, if you want to come up and give some final comments.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair Daley. Thank you, members, for hearing Senate Bill 215. Before I address some of the concerns about the bill, especially down at the Sawyer Building, there were some claims made about prior elections and about allegations of voter fraud, and I believe everyone has the right to have their opinion, and I support free speech. However, I'm very concerned by repeated false claims. We have had our current Secretary of State, who's a registered Democrat, our prior Secretary of State, who was a registered Republican, many court challenges in our state that went up through the courts, and there was no evidence found of any widespread voter fraud. So I believe that those repeated claims, those false claims, really try to create doubt in terms of the integrity of our elections that is unfounded. So I just wanted to put that on the record, Vice Chair. As to the concerns about the bill, again, this bill is not retroactive, it is prospective. This bill would not prohibit any county or city from going to a paper ballot voting system if that is what they wanted to do. What this bill will do, if it's passed, is it will protect our constituents and our taxpayers, because every county, every city that conducts elections will be on notice that if you accept funds from the state for purchasing mechanical voting machines, and then you decide to go to a paper ballot system, if you meet the two prongs under subsection 3 of section 1, discontinue the use of the mechanical voting system and require voting in person, then that money would need to be returned. This bill does not require any change from monies that were appropriated from the 2017 session. And as to locking in any counties or cities into antiquated machines, this bill would not prohibit switching to another kind of mechanical voting machine as long as it was approved by the Secretary of State. This bill is a bill to protect our taxpayers, and it's a bill that is prospective and would put every county and city election official, every board that administers elections, on notice that that's a choice they would need to make if they are going to accept state funds for purchasing mechanical voting machines. I thank you for hearing the bill, and appreciate your considering it.
Thank you, Senator. And with that, we'll close the hearing on Senate Bill 215, and we will hand the gavel back to the chairman when he gets to the dais.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Last item on our agenda is public comment. If there's anyone here in Carson City or at the Sawyer Building who wants to make public comment, please come forward. Again, please come forward and make your public comment. Public comment is not related to the bill hearing we just heard. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
My name is Susan Hoffbecker, Hoffecker. I'm a resident of Carson City and have been for quite a long time. And I don't want this bill to pass because...
Ms. Hoffecker, I appreciate your activism being here,
It's
but
my first
public comment's
time.
not about the bill, so anything
Okay.
other than the bill.
All right, well, when I went to vote, I asked them if they wanted my ID. They said no. And then they sent me over to a thing, and I always used to vote by mail, but I don't anymore. I go in. And I vote, and then I hand them my paper, and they put it in the machine, and I walk away not feeling good about it. So And you know what? The way the elections have been going, it just confirms my thought that there is stuff that's not right. I mean, this country's going south. That's all I have to say. And I like to keep the voting local, under local jurisdiction.
Thank you, Ms. Hoffaker. Anyone else here in Carson City wishes to make public comment? Okay, not seeing anyone, I'll go down to the Sawyer Building. Anyone who wishes to make public comment not related to the bill hearing on Senate Bill 215, please come forward. Okay, I'm not seeing anyone at the Sawyer Building. Broadcasting, if we could go to the phone lines. Anyone who wishes to make public comment, and we are trying to keep it to 2 minutes per speaker.
If you would like to provide public comment, press star 9 to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers willing to provide public comment at this time.
Thank you very much. Thank you, members, for your attention to the hearing. With that, we are adjourned.